How you doing, guys? Today, it's another beautiful day here in the Northeast. So for today on the Kohler 3-into-1, we're going to go ahead and put together the ignition system. We're going to clean up a flywheel so we can get that done. I got to dig through this box a little bit. I see, is that, no, that's not the crank nut. I got to find the crank nut, and I got to dig through this pile of stuff. A lot of this stuff we're already done with, like, this is a bearing plate gasket. We're done. Breather's done. Oh, we do need all. No, there's the crank nut and there's all the little pieces. Oh, and there's the points rod that I wanted to get. Okay, so we need all this. We need to clean that. So we'll put that right there. What else are we gonna need? Let's see here. For ignition parts, I think we're pretty dead points. We're not using those. I'm not gonna put a starter cup on it right now because I'll probably put my own starter cup on the engine when we go to start it. Oh, and we are going to have to go ahead and clean these governor parts, or a few of them. We're not going to need the bushing. We need the arm. We need one of these sundials, I call them. All right, whichever one is like theoretically the cleaner one. I guess we'll take that one. And oh, we definitely need this. This is definitely need one of those. So we'll clean that up. The rest of this stuff can stay out here. So let's get to it. So after rummaging through the box and pulling some other parts off the engine that had no oil pan, I have cobbled together enough parts to put the ignition together. I was hoping to use the Kohler coil, but unfortunately the ignition wire that was on that coil is cracked beyond repair. I mean, it goes, as you can tell, the crack goes all the way to the core. So unlike the last ignition wire I fixed, this one is junk. I am going to scoff the spark plug clip off the end of this ignition wire, clean it all up, and I'm going to use it on the aftermarket coil that was on the engine with no oil pan. Unfortunately, the end of this wire was junk, so I had to. That's the reason why I'm going to have to, where the heck, there it is. I'm going to have to pull that off this ignition wire and put it on this ignition wire. I did test the coil. I got the probe stuck into the end where the spark plug would be. I'm just going to touch this. We have about 8 ohms of resistance, so that tells me that that is working. If we go ahead and pull this out like that, and with one hand, I'll just kind of drop that in there like that, and go like this, we have wide open, so the coil itself is good. So I would call this coil good. It just needs to be cleaned and remounted on the mag bar. This mag bar just needs to be cleaned and sanded a little bit so it'll be nice and clean. We'll put that on there. I did get a new set of points and a new condenser, so we're going to be doing brand new stuff there. I do have to clean that little points cover, so we can put that in there. But what we're going to do now is we're going to go, oh, and the wire that goes from the condenser to the points, I'm actually going to save one of the wire. I usually make new ones, but this one's in such good shape, and it is a factory Kohler wire. I'm just going to clean it up and reuse it. There's no need to reinvent the wheel on that. I am going to make a kill wire to come out, so because this is going to go on a wheel horse tractor, so the owner's going to want to have a kill switch, so we'll get that done. So a couple little things, just a lot of cleaning, and then we'll start to build out this ignition system. So with the coil and the ignition wire all cleaned up, we got the mag bar cleaned up, and this is the little sheet metal clip that goes right here that kind of causes the friction for the coil to stay on the mag bar. Actually, somebody had asked me in a comment section just recently, where can you get one of these? And to be brutally honest with you, I don't know. I've had them break before, and I've basically thrown it all away. But in this case, this one is still good. Sorry for the person that has a bad one. But we're going to go ahead and get this all together. We'll slide the coil on the mag bar. Sometimes if they're tight, I'll take just a hair of oil just to lubricate it to help it slide on. And then you can see where the tab was bent right here. Just bend it over 90 degrees and that just holds the whole thing together. So I'm going to go ahead and put the coil back on the mag bar, and I'm going to go ahead and install the mag bar on the bearing plate. Pretty simple setup that we have here. Obviously mounted the bar. Well, I put the coil on first, put the holding tab in place. Unfortunately, there is a little crack, I guess, in the coil right there, but I did test it again after it's all been in place, and it functions properly, so we're just going to leave that alone. So mounted the coil to the mag bar, put the clip in place, bent it over so that's all nice and solid. One wire from the coil is grounded to the mag bar. The other wire goes to the condenser. This is the wire that goes from the condenser to the points, and this is what actually kind of fires the points or sends the signal for the points. We'll be putting the points in a minute, and I just tighten down the screw, and then tighten down the screw. I am going to get a little wire tie just to hold this in place, so that way when we put the flywheel on, we're not going to have any issues with that. But essentially anything and everything that has to do with under the flywheel is done. And I should have started the video out. I did put this seal in already. Just lightly oiled everything up, took a socket and tap 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 and just gently tapped it in until it was flush. So the new seal's in, the coil's in, the bar's in, the condenser's in. We're going to spin this thing so we can get a better view, but I got to clean the points cover first. One of the things that I do that helps me out is, because I always forget about these gaskets behind the points cover, and by the way, the points cover is clean and ready to go. I like to just go ahead and use the two bolts that hold the points cover in place, just to hold the gasket in place, and then I can build out the ignition system and not forget that, because if you forget it, then you got to cut it somewhere and it just becomes a mess, or you just don't put it even in there. But this isn't my engine, so I'm going to do it the right way. Points rod is right here. These typically can get mushroomed over a little bit. This one here has just a hint of that, but one of the things you want to do is go ahead, slide it into the bore and make sure that it slides good. This one's perfect. It's perfectly fine. So I'm going to put a little bit of assembly lube on the end of the points rod, and then just a very little touch of bearing grease on the sides, so that way when I go ahead and slide it in, it'll be lubricated. Once I get that going, we'll go ahead and mount the new points. We'll get the condenser wire hooked up. I'm going to go ahead and make the kill wire for it before I go ahead and mount all this together, and then we'll set the points gap. The points are installed. They're not set yet, but before you can set them, you have to have all the wires connected. So the condenser wire is connected. I made a quick kill wire, connected it all to the mounting spot on the points, made sure the spring was within the plastic cap, where you captures the spring. I also dug through the box of parts, and I found one of the points cover grommets that slides right there. So went ahead and installed all that first, so that way when it gets to the point to put the points cover in place, I can. One of the things I got to do is I have to pull the spark plug out, because the compression on this motor is pretty ridiculous. Just barely turning it with my hand, it thumps really good. So really happy about that. Hopefully that will stay true when we first start up the motor, but gonna go ahead and find the top dead center, I guess you call it, on a single cylinder motor where the points are open. That way I can go ahead and set it, and then I'll talk to you about how I set them in just 1 second. Please please forgive me for the professional camera angle here, but I have rotated the engine around to the point where the points are open as far as possible. In other words, the little push rod is pushed out as far as it possibly can. We need to set these points to 20 thousandths. So I'm going to get my 20 thousandths feeler gauge, I'm going to get just a little screwdriver here. One that I can get to the screw. You know what? I'm going to use this longer screwdriver. We're going to go ahead and get into the screw. Make sure you got it good because you don't want to mange up the head. Take your 20 thousandths feeler gauge in and gently let the points kind of drop down on the feeler gauge. Okay? And then what you're going to do is you're just going to go ahead and snug it down. Typically, when you snug the bolt down, what happens is the points may get a little tighter than 20 thousandths, but that feels really good. So I'm going to go ahead and really crank it down. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty good. So let me go ahead and crank it down with this other screwdriver because the head's a little bigger. Make sure that's getting tight. Take my 20 thousandths again. And that feels really good. And that's it. And that's how I set the points on a Kohler engine. The ignition is built out. We put the points cover on. Everything's tightened down. This is the wire from the condenser. Kill wires installed. All the little screws are tightened down. The wire connections are all tightened down. And we are in a position where we can put the flywheel on. But before we do that, I do have to fix the ignition wire. Now, I did make a slice with the razor blade through the sheath to the core, because I could actually shorten up the ignition switch. I went ahead and cleaned up the end from the old ignition wire. So we're going to go ahead and install that. Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take the sheath off, cut the wire core down enough, and then fold it up and over onto the outside of the sheath, and then crimp the end on to make a really good connection. We'll clip it onto the spark plug, and then we'll run a test to make sure all the continuity is correct, and then install the flywheel. So I just removed that sheath. I'm going to bend this inner core up and over the outside. Then I'm just going to take the end, put the end in this position with the core kind of sticking out to this little spike. I'm going to press it all into place and then crimp it down with my pliers, and that end should be on. The ignition wire is all set. It's crimped on real nice. You see it fits real tight. Almost looks factory, but it clips on real nice. So good positive connection. I went with the little ohm meter, made sure everything works. So we got continuity to the end based off of the output of the coil. So we're all good there. As I said, points and everything, that's all set. I was going to install the flywheel next. You can see it's right there on the floor ready to go, but I'm going to wait. And the reason I'm going to wait is I don't know what kind of recoil I'm going to put on this motor yet. So next up is getting the bits and pieces of the governor cleaned up and installed. I'm not going to be able to set the governor because I need to get a carburetor and figure out what length carburetor rod I need, and then I can adjust actually adjust the governor. But for right now, I got to clean up all those parts, get them installed, and really clean up the tins. And the governor is basically installed. I had to pull the bushing back out in order to get the cable bracket, throttle cable bracket, and the speed disc in place. Now the governor arm is completely loose. It's not tightened down. We do have the governor spring engaged with the speed disc as well as engaged with the arm. I'm going to leave it like this because I don't have a carburetor yet for this motor. Now I might end up using one of my carburetors just to get it started, and I haven't torqued the flywheel on because I got to figure out what kind of starter or recoil I should say that's being planned for this. So I may do a couple things just kind of makeshift so I can get this thing started up in the next week or so, meaning I'll probably use one of my carburetors, one of my carburetor links, as well as I'll figure out what I'm going to use as a recoil in order to start the motor. But we're right there. It basically needs oil and a little bit of break-in additive, and then fire in the hole, and it should run good. It seems to have really good compression. Everything seemed to come together real nice here at the end. So I'm psyched. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. I know the last video was way too long. It was like a half an hour. I tried not to do them that long, but I just wanted to get the entire reassembly of the short block together. But if you could please like, share, and subscribe, as well as leave a comment below. All those things and a thumbs up, that always helps out the videos, helps out my channel. And as always, until the next project, you have a good day.